think we were in the championship. Vale, Carmarthen, stinking dirty. Carmarthen come up here, coach was like, no, we aren't playing on this. Pitch was ball, absolutely mud bath. And the coach was like, no, we're not playing on this. I said, oh. I started like trying to get into him a little bit. I was outside, and I was saying, I know Hayden too quite well, and we still talk quite often now. I know Hayden, and he was like, I was like, oh, you can't be doing this. You can't shy away from the challenge, like type thing. I could see I got right under his skin. So the coach had called the game off, and the coach was like, "Oh no, I'm not playing that. I'm not happy with this. It's dangerous." It was wet. It was like you walk on a pair of trainers on, you going on your ass like. So they got in. I won the boys. Our boys, the game's got off. They, shouted in, the game's off. They checking out type thing. Blah blah blah. And Perry comes out and goes, "No, I'm fucking off. I'm playing. So he goes back in. So we play it. First line out. I go up in the line out, get dropped, snap my ACL completely, like literally ruptured completely. I was like, great. I was like, Shawnee, Reese, my knee's gone. He's like, what? So I'm telling him about my knee's gone. He said, you're coming off? I said, oh no, I can't come off. He said, just do something to it. So what do you want me to do? I said, I don't know, strap it up or something. So he strapped it right up, like literally from my ankle to my groin near enough.
We got into a bit of a scuffle in France as normal.
Just the one?
In Cologne years this time. We like to change it about, we don't want to go to the same place and have a scrap. So as we do, obviously all over, spent the night in the cells and this and that, and then got called into up into the boardroom on the Monday morning with Kenneth Thomas. There was about 6 of us sat in there. So he went off on one, bang, 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 and then he said, one thing that's good out of this, Chief, you haven't started it. So I thought, oh, crikey, okay. So finally kind of calmed down a touch. So he went to walk out. Then he just turned around and said, and which one of you strangled an effing dog? Now what happened during it, one of the police Alsatians jumped on Sven Kronk and he actually choked it out. And I remember seeing the dog on the floor. I said, what's going on here? Well, at the time, you're just more concerned about not being arrested, obviously defending yourself and all that. But then afterwards, I thought, what enabled him to strangle a poor dog? What had that dog done?
Jiffy just doesn't realise how old he is. He's just so fit. And he's so competitive. Yeah. So like I learned from other conditioners, what I learned with Jiffy is if you put something on the board and it's like a target, and sometimes I'll just tell, one of the boys just smashed that time. You go, oh, okay, yeah, we'll do that one. So, and Shane's the same. And what they don't realise, they all secretly DM me saying, oh, what time did, it's quite funny actually. So when I trained Gareth in the summer or Alan, I'd have like a DM from Rhys Webb saying, oh, what time did they get? I'll give that a go tomorrow. So, the boys just slightly competitive.
And coming to the end of your Blues career, there were stories about you going out to Russia. So what happened and how did that actually come around?
I think that was one of the boys on Wikipedia. Just but I generally never had nobody come forward to me asking me if I was interested or do any channels of with your agent or saying that, do you want to come over and have a look? So there was, I don't know where the hell that come from.
I remember Lee Beach, he was captain with us, and we were sharing a room together. And obviously, put spare clothes in for the day, because depending on how many games you got in the Sevens. And I remember him asking me, how many pairs of pants are you putting in? Thinking, are we going to go out first game now? Or best put 3 pants in just in case. That's one of the first things he said. Then when we won the semis, three pairs. You said.
I remember. I'm not going to name the player, but he was a prop, and he was playing regional rugby regularly, and he had his body comps done, and he was way over 25%, and the nutritionist said to him, if you got picked by Wales, you wouldn't last 2 training sessions. Your body would break down physically because you're not in a good enough position.
Outside of rugby, have any music labels been in touch following your little wedding rap?
Where do you find out that?
Google, mate. One of the first things that comes up.
No, I haven't. Believe it or not, I was hoping so, but nothing. No,
It's Murphy boys again, popular for the singing. I was seeing Jacob Lewis on Twitter the other day.
I know.
Class.
Someone, I spoke to him, and he showed us a picture of his DMs and Jesus Jones. He's blowing up on Twitter, to be fair, but no, nothing. I don't know. I got asked. The Western Mail phoned me after it. I was driving the car. I was like, what's going on? Like, he was just asking me the most random questions in the world. But yeah, it was. I don't know. It was just, looking back, I was a bit. I can't believe I did it. But it just, come off, and I almost shit out. I got to be honest. I was sitting on top of it, and my
How
heart.
much more nervous?
I was like, I can't do it. And I hadn't told anybody. Literally, nobody knew. And then I told my mate then, who was down there. I said, look, I had something planned, and I was like, I can't do it. And he said, no, just do it. And then it was a little shot of the bar. And then, just as soon as it dropped, then you gotta let it go.
Class.
Well, first of all, especially with the alcoholism, people don't, that's another thing. There's a lack of understanding around this. So, I'll tell you a story. I don't mind. I tried to come off the alcohol. I was drinking every day. But when I tried to come off it, I was driving back to Bridgend one day, and I had a massive seizure because I didn't have the understanding where you can't just stop drinking. You have to wean yourself off it. So I was driving home, and I had
the fact that there are still some people out there who view mental health challenges as a weakness or something to be ashamed of. Clearly those people have never lived with something, because the strength it takes to live with a mental health condition and function in your daily life and try and hide it from other people is quite an achievement for anybody to do for a prolonged period of time. So it's massively important you speak up about it, because just how many people we've lost because they felt nobody would understand. And that has happened to me. There's been a couple of times where I've really been close to just calling it a day, and luckily I got help. And but as I've experienced over the last year, it doesn't go away. You just have to maintain it as best you can, and a key part of that is talking to people and getting help.
As an old school, played for Pontypool in the 80s and the early 90s and then late 90s. I'm old school. I didn't even think it was a thing. People are going to be on depressed, and I just went off. Shut up. Get on with it. And until you went through it, like Tom had it really bad as well. He really struggled with it. You think, he's a top level athlete, and he had to take like a year off rugby, and which is really sad because he was like 29 at the time. That's his pinnacle. That's when he needs to be doing his best. But we talked to Tom about it, and it's a serious issue, and people need to educate themselves, and more people need to get people to get the understanding of it, because it's a really life-changing condition. So
I've got three children. I've got Lily, George and Annie, and George with me. George is autistic. So talking about mental health and that, I struggled. I say struggled, I did. If I'm being honest and open about it, I kind of struggled talking about it at one point. But we talk about that rugby kind of community and people around you, even people that say they don't, play for whoever, but you end up speaking to them and they're actually really good people. I know that I can pick up the phone to kind of Guesty who plays down in Drovers, or I could pick the phone up and speak to one of the other boys who plays down in Swansea or Banff, anyone or other teammates within my team. I feel comfortable enough to kind of speak to them about things that are going on with me as well, because I'd be honest with you, I struggled about it with the whole autism thing and stuff like that, but it's good to talk. It really, really is.
Yeah, I knew Anthony very well. I was very fond of him. I always used to look forward to the end of matches, and he'd be in the bar in Llandudno, and we'd talk the match through, and he followed his boys, Tom, Scott and Jack, up and down the country, following on sports. I know they're all very, very good cricket players. And obviously Scott and Jack are very good players, and he's very, very proud of his boys. And I know the boys have made some great memories, and they've got a lot to reflect on with Anthony. And
So obviously everyone from Llandudno, and I'm sure the Welsh Premiership, wish Jack and Scott all the best and send sincere condolences to everyone there. If anyone knows Scott or Jack, you know how nice boys they are, and you can just tell that as soon as you speak to their dad. I've never heard anyone say a bad word about him, but his boys and his family, he's a proper family man, and them 3 boys meant everything to him. And it's very, very sad to see him go. He was diagnosed with cancer back in September, I think, and he fought really hard, and I thought he was going to pull through it, but he just sort of had to let go in the end. And I know the boys are very thankful of what the memories people have been saying about him. So he's going to be greatly missed down Llandudno and down Carmarthen Athletic, where I know he's very highly thought of also.
Yeah, it's a story that a lot of people like hearing lately at the moment. I don't know why, but so I'm from Dyffryn in Newport. You know, very working class background, and you know, a lot of unemployment at the time. You know, and a single parent household. You know, and when I tell you the story, you'll notice how that interlinks with my role now with St Giles Cymru. But you know, single parent upbringing, and you know, my own family member had addiction issues, you know, so that affected us growing up when we were kids, you know, me and my younger brothers, and I was getting into a lot of trouble, you know, in terms of the police, for the law, and I got picked up for rugby by when I got chased by some local people in the area, and I was gone. I was leaping fences and you know, and things like that. And 2 local police officers who were on the beat saw it happen, and they were like, they come knock on my door, and they basically got involved in sport that way. They were like, why don't you just use that, you know, that ability you got, we use that for something positive, and it went from there really. Yeah, so when I first got involved with rugby, you know, I was on the fence. I was involved with the, you know, it's called the youth justice system now, but when I was doing it, it was the youth offending team. That was a name for him, and I was still under that. And I was still on the fence. I don't know which way that went, which way I was going that way. And, you know, a lot of things have happened, you know, with me growing up, you know, losing friends, you know, through things, and, you know, get arrested for things that I've, you know, that I did, you know, in terms of, you know, criminal exploitation, that side of the ladder. So when I went to rugby, yeah, it definitely changed it for me, especially when I went to Ebervale. All that completely changed. You know, that environment got bigger, and this environment I was used to got smaller. Then it just get smaller and smaller, and then that was it. Then,
and obviously you had your first sort of taste of rugby with St Joseph's RFC in Dyffryn. How much do you like sort of owe to the club, not just for your rugby?
Yeah, there was a coach there, Mike Dawkins. He was the head coach of the youth side at the time, and you know, when I went there, obviously they were based in Dyffryn, you know, so obviously my name was quite well recognised in you know, in that area. So when I turned up, obviously my reputation wasn't the best, but the nicest thing was he didn't really care about that. He just saw a young lad who had potential to go quite far in the sport of rugby union. And yeah, I owe him a lot, really, you know, because he was there for me all the time. He'd ring me, you know, in the week, make sure I'm home, make sure I'm not going missing, you know, things like that. And he's, you know, come and sometimes pick me up himself Saturday morning for training, and then pick me up for the games on Sunday. He's very influential, Mike. You know, he was very, very on the ball with me, and even though he was my coach, he cared about me outside of rugby as well. You know, and I just think that's the value of rugby in general.
Oh yes, it was huge. You know, there was no pressure from my father for me to play rugby at all. But once I made the decision that I wanted to be a rugby player, then, you know, he sort of supported me as any father would. You know, gives me some advice after games and some feedback. But, you know, growing up, I think it's the same for any young boy in Wales, or any sort of village in Wales. Like the rugby club is the sort of the centre of the community, you know what I mean? And especially you in Tumble, it was sort of a weekly thing. You'd go training on a Wednesday night as a junior, you'd play on a Sunday, you might do the odd football game, you know, in between, but you know, that was routine, and everyone sort of, it was a good community feel, especially in Tynwell. We had a really strong junior section. But as you said, growing up in a rugby family, there was no real escape from it. As much as my father might say that he didn't put pressure on me, you know, going to see him, well, to start, play down Stradey Park and then playing for Wales and then seeing him coach, because you're like, you know, you're itching to be a part of it. And, you know, I'm lucky enough now that I've got the support of him. And, no, it was a good childhood, you know what I mean, especially growing up in this area.
And you also had a short spell at Ealing Trailfinders in the English Championship. How was that for you? How was the environment different to when you were playing in Wales?
Yeah, it was a bit of a mistake to go, to be honest. Went completely for the wrong reason. Went for money. And it was, I just find it was quite a strange, maybe even borderline toxic environment there. There was boys there, I've said it before, that I don't think would get in any other regional team, and they were probably being paid way over the odds for that league. And you know, I think it took me about 3 days, and I was like, I don't want to be here.
With Newport, every game was a massive game in front of a big crowd. You know, Pontypool. So we ran out at Pontypool, and I can remember it was a home game, Rodney Parade. There must have been about 7,000 or 8,000 there, and I can remember thinking, "Where's all the Newport fans?" It seemed to be just a home crowd for Pontypool. These chants of Pooler, Pooler. When we ran out, and I thought, this is a bit different. And I can remember Spike Watkins, our captain and hooker, went on to captain Wales then later on that season, throwing the ball in the very first line out, and nobody jumped for the ball. It was just a free-for-all. The ball was, you might as well kept the ball hanging on a piece of string in the air there, because nobody was interested. You had Graham Price and Rhys Morgan, the two props at the front. You had David Waters and John Perkins, the second rows, having a go in the middle. You had Jeff Squire and Mark Brown and Roger Powell having a go at the back. It was just an absolute free-for-all, and it continued like that for most of the game. And I can remember coming off the field, and Roger Powell, a great Newport flanker, played nearly 400 games for the Black and Hammers, coming off and taking his shirt off, and he had almost like Adidas stripes down his back.
It's quite emotional sort of decision I had to make. My wife's actually from Llandovery, and she was the chairman at the time's niece, so I sort of fell in love with her down there, and we've had two kids. So I owe a lot to the club, not just on the field, but off the field also. And what a great rugby club it is, I've always thought. And I'll be honest, when I signed down there originally, I thought I'll play a couple of years down here, and then hopefully someone like Swansea or Neath would pick me up and I could be closer to home. But I fell in love with the club, and it's a real rugby club, and one of the last real rugby clubs left, probably in the Premiership. The junior teams and youth teams. And the best thing about the club is, after the game, if you win, lose or draw, play badly, the supporters will always want to come up and talk to you and buy you a pint or whatever, and they're just so nice. They don't care about the result. They're just happy that you've given everything on that field.
Llandovery means loads to me. Like, I've had a few, obviously, opportunities over the years to go and play in England and things like that. I had a call to play for Rotherham. That was a good while ago now. And Llandovery always, I don't know, it was tough to leave. Like, you know, I'm a homeboy anyway. And they've been so good to me as a club. We don't have a massive fan base, but obviously the fans we do have, it's really special. They're all really welcoming, really nice. And we have a really good sort of environment there, and it's just really enjoyable. You know, obviously I've been there for nearly 12, well, I've been there for 12 years now. And like I said, I've had a few good opportunities to go away, which could have progressed my career further, to be honest. But I decided that I was happy where I was, comfortable. I just really enjoyed it. The environment was like a family environment. It just suited me. You know, it's the type of person I am. It's the type of environment I enjoy. So yeah, it just worked out well for me, really. And I can't see me ever going to another team, to be honest with you.
It's been a massive part of my life. It's been everything really since probably when I went down there to join the academy at 15. It was just, I was the only club I ever wanted to play for. And yeah, it's been brilliant. It's, like I said, a massive part of my life. And for my family, really, they've got involved in it. My mother and father are big Ponty supporters, and I know the kids love Ponty. So yeah, it's been massive, and it has been a big part of my life. And I know you say, like,
about putting things first. Probably, being honest here, probably I've put Ponty in front of my family a lot of times, which sometimes I've had to, like, to be as successful as I have and to be captain. You've got to try and make those sacrifices, and that's stuff I've definitely done over the years. But it's all been worth it, and I'd love my time down here.
Last year, we had to eat and have our after match food and that in one of the clubs up in Merthyr, and they're great, absolutely phenomenal, beautiful people, done a great job as well as they could, because it was tight in there, to say the least. But they were great, and they serviced us as best as they possibly can. But it wasn't ours. It wasn't our club. You know, mate, the amount of people, if I had £1 for every time someone said to me, yeah, Pontypridd's got a shithole club, isn't it? Shithole club. Yeah, it is, but it's our shithole. You know, it's our club. It's our bricks and mortar. And that's my point, you know, is we lost that togetherness because we're in a strange place, and we couldn't have a barbecue, we couldn't have a drink, and stay on as late as we wanted, you know. So I'm not blaming that for our poor season, but it definitely didn't help us, you know, along the way. Although, as I say, the club were tremendous. But yeah, having that new club up there now, looking at it, it looks great. It's very, you know, it's one-tiered, so it's the same as Pontypridd. It's just a newer version of a Pontypridd setup, you know, even the lounge bars and that, you know. So, and what that means is we all mingle together. So we're no longer, because in our old club, mind, we used to eat in the other room, and all the supporters were in another room, and I didn't like that. So now we can all be in the same room, you know, and that's what it should be about. We're a community club. They're a community club. We play that game for the town, and we're successful for the town. So why shouldn't they share it with us every weekend, not just the big games? Exactly like Pontypridd.
And you mentioned Sir Stanley Thomas. How big for the club was he in the time he was there?
Oh, he was huge. You know, he was, you know, obviously, what he's done to Merthyr sort of off the field as well, with the pitch and, you know, and the gym up there, but obviously his support financially as well to get them where they are. You know, this is going to be obviously jealous people out there, but that's what happens when you do have a multi-millionaire backer. But, you know, he is what he is. He's a ruthless businessman. You know, and he's certainly got success through Merthyr, but his legacy he's going to leave behind, you know, for what he's done for the club and the town. You know, he's upset people along the way, I'm not going to lie, you know, but, you know, he certainly, his record speaks for himself.
Yeah, over the past 2 seasons, Swansea have had some good regional youngsters playing for them, like Cambriani, Callum Carson, Morgan Morris, Josh Thomas. How do you think they've improved from playing in the Premiership?
It's playing. As much as you go on a train, you've got to play. And like, I believe that these kids will make mistakes because they're young and they're learning. Everyone makes mistakes. But you learn from those mistakes and you get better and better. And like, you're foolish to think you're going to put a jersey on and be perfect because they've got academy or you're going to score a hat-trick for you. They will make mistakes. By the 3rd or 4th game, they get better and better. And like Josh Thomas, for us, he's unbelievable towards the end. You know, he's controlling the game, but the first game he's quite, you know, developing, trusting himself and his ability. And look, you know, I think he played against the Scards and like half time, like for 30 minutes. He was unbelievable against the Scards, I heard. So, Morgan Morris, I think he played 17 games just one season, and I think people didn't realise how good he was. And then you feed back and like, look at this kid, he's robust, even though he's not the tallest guy in the world. He's robust, and I think his body hardened as soon as you called him to Osprey. He was ready for a game. He wasn't a shock to his body. And Carson as well. Carson's one of those players who can do something that you've never seen before. But it's when to do it. And I think he's learned that. Cambriani scoring tries. I've never seen a guy stand someone up and score a try and actually see away before in the space of like 2 meters. And they will do it, but it's repetition. And the more they play, the better they get.
What I've got to do as a player is try to get to a point where either scores or we don't need any hookers now. I mean, we're comfortable with what we got. But he's not of that mindset. He's there to work in the pyramid of regional rugby, which it is. So if a youngster's coming down, I'm happy to help him 100%. And I wouldn't be negative. I'd make him feel welcome. introduce myself straight away because, you know what I mean? I'm never going to make it. He might. So if I can help him, that's my job done, isn't it?
So with the Prem, if you're an 18-year-old, 19-year-old, and you're in the academy, you do get a lot of chat. Like, I'm not gonna lie, come against some teams like Merthyr, like Ebervale, teams like that. You got some old boys who've been on the Prem for like almost a decade. That stage, you're quite wise. You played a lot of rugby, and it's not as heavily refereed as these games as well. So you do learn quick, like especially in the pack. Like, I feel you do learn quick. Sort of, I know, a bit of gamesmanship really. I think that's ideal for like a youngster to go into, because so you pick it up quick, and then as soon as you step onto regional level, you've been there, done that sort of thing.
Development, okay, but people got to ask themselves, what does development look like? Okay, so it's pure development, right? But development doesn't mean you play a 17-year-old in front of a 28-year-old because he's had his time, and it's development is what does development look like? That's the big question. So you're playing these Mickey Mouse, Pop and Crisp A games, right, for the Blues. Okay, you've got all a bunch of youngsters who are playing experienced people, Leinster A. They go out there and they've got all the endeavour in the world. Okay, all the endeavour in the world. They're going to work their cogs off, but they haven't experienced something like this. They don't know how to change up and how to change down. They haven't got the experience. Development, to me, is putting a 17-year-old next to David Lockyer in Pontypridd, okay, who then challenges the best out there in the British and Irish Cup, or be it for Merthyr, or be it against Carmarthen or whomever, and they pit themselves. But they've got this guy next to them to lean on when you need him, okay? This guy next to him is excited because he got this young bugger next to him who knows he can rip it up any minute. But then when times get tough, their young fella's going to depend on that older fella. And that's development, okay, as well as off the pitch, okay? As academy players, I've been there, mate. I worked for the academy. They've been given everything. Doesn't make them bad people, and it doesn't make them spoiled little brats, because they're not, because they're good kids. Otherwise, they wouldn't be in the academy, because we also go on character. But they haven't been pissed up, you know what I mean? They haven't had a good laugh with the boys. They haven't had a barbecue and then had a good, you know, just interacted with the supporters and all that. They haven't. And then once you get part of something, then you want to give more back. And so for me, the Premiership's about development. It's about bringing these youngsters, okay, whether they're in the academy or they're not, they haven't quite made it at that point, using your environment, your seniority, your experience as a coach and experienced players to bring this kid through.
Yeah, I'm on Twitter, obviously, and you know, I read through sort of the anti sort of Premiership vibes that are out there regarding it's a league for old men and it's a waste of money and so on. But being hands-on, you know, I see a great development pathway and also a great competition. You know, it's a stepping stone for these youngsters to make themselves better, to become pro players. It probably doesn't make a pro player, but it gives that stepping stone and experience for youngsters to gain, you know, sort of valuable game time. You know, I think when Jones was in the press last 2 weeks, just saying one of his toughest games was in the Premiership, you know, and that's up to date now. So it has its values, definitely, but, you know, the people that are probably having a go at it and potentially hands-on involved and don't see what actually goes on behind the scenes and the sort of professionalism and the preparation that these boys get. And to me, it's a great competition, and it's definitely a development pathway, you know, that should get stronger next few years, in my opinion.
You know, you're always going to get a couple of freaks in there. Someone like George North, who's going to go straight from playing Wales 18s, Wales 19s, whatever, straight to playing regional rugby because physically he was ready. But then on the other side, you might get someone like another player who might take him a couple of years before. And I'm just saying this because, you know, obviously it'd be different positions. A prop will probably mature later than a than a winger would or a centre. So, but again, going from Premiership to the regional game, there is a massive difference physically because, again, you're coming up against guys who are bigger, stronger, more powerful, quicker, and the game's a lot harder and a lot faster.
They clipped down from 16 to 12, and I think that, although it was tough on the 4 that went down, I do think that it strengthened it, and each week was challenging. Everyone was capable of beating anyone. I know Cardiff was running away with it, but in all honesty, we had opportunities to beat them. We had, Merthyr was winning games here, there, and everywhere, and we managed to turn them over. So yeah, it's a challenging league. I think having home and away and a relegation is definitely something to fight for, and definitely something that we need in there. Personally, I think that we should be using it as a bit more a tool to develop the academy players or the potential pro players around the regionals. And I know we're on our front at Newport, we're probably not using it as I think we should do, developing those academy players. They need to be playing week in, week out.
But I also think, if I can use Jack Morgan as an example, the Jack is an exceptional talent, and I've got no doubt will go on and play for Wales and probably captain Wales. Jack was released by the Scarlets. Jack came to Aberavon, and he played for us. I think he played over 1,000 minutes in that season, which earned him selection into the Welsh under-20s. He had a great tournament. And then he was re-signed by the Scarlets, and a little bit unfortunate at the moment. He's picked up a knee injury, but he was on fire. Once he got game time. So what the Premiership did was, Jack was released by the Scarlets. He played back in the Premiership with Aberavon, enhanced his reputation, played some good rugby, earned himself a full-time contract with the Scarlets. Can also bring up officials as well. We've just seen the emergence of Adam Jones, tremendous ref. Craig Evans, I believe now is on the Six Nations official panel, so I think he's going to be involved this year. Both those guys, I remember them coming on the scene in the Premiership, and cutting their teeth in the Premiership. So I suppose when you ref in a game, and there's a lot of pressure on that game, and a lot depends on that game, perhaps they would learn a lot more reffing those games than reffing A games where that pressure doesn't exist. So, it's nice. The Premiership is good development tool, not just for players, but officials as well.
Poor Kai Lewis. We lost 2 tight heads within 2 weeks, and Kai had a bar up every week, to the stage where against Aberavon, the first game home, Rhys Force was persuaded. I had 4 sessions to make him a tight head of the Premiership, and it's been interesting.
He's formed a fantastic career really in the Premiership, probably the number 1 line-out operator really, throughout that 15-year period. And he wanted a new challenge. He felt it was the only time now that if he wanted to move on before he probably gets too old. And like I said, it wasn't a new broom type of thing, but if it was time to leave, it was probably now, because we got a fresh start and we're trying to build a new squad for the next 3 to 4 years, and I can't speak highly enough of Ashley. He led us in a real tough period for the club. He's one of the players that stayed, and especially in the wins at home against Ponty and RGC. If anyone was questioning his attitude towards the club, we'd only have to watch those performances. And he's a captain that probably leads by action than words. And he was a fine second row operator. So I wish him all the best. And like I said, I've known Ashley for a long time in his career, and I only wish him well in his new club. Picking a new captain was difficult. It's always hard, and especially when you're forming a new squad. But Joe Franchi's always been someone since I've been at the club for the last 3 years that I've been massively impressed with. Not just his physicality and contact on the field, which he's just a dynamite really. On that, I just like the way that he conducts himself and talks to the board and the chairman and brings players issues and opportunities that he feels that we can build as a squad. The way that he conducts himself. He was the right man out to do one of the best phone calls I made in lockdown. Really was that call to him and asking him would he want to captain his hometown club, and that didn't take very long. So, I certainly know we've got the right person to do that for the next couple of seasons.
And to finish, we've got a teammates quiz for you. Of all the players you played with or coached, who's the worst dressed?
I'd probably say Matt Gilbert. He went on to play for Bath after Connectley, and I think he played for Loughborough then. Yeah, Matt Gilbert. I think he get dressed in the dark, mate. It's so bad, you wouldn't believe it. Either him or Samson Lee. Samson Lee would go for double tracksuit, same colour. And Gumby was, I think, the bootleg and bootleg jeans and cats were gone miles ago. He was still rocking up in cats and cat boot tops.
And who's the best drinker you've seen?
Coaches is chief. He can drink for 3 days. He can, and you don't want to get around. You don't want to get around with him because he'll put you in a mess. The chief will.
And without sharing too much, who's the biggest liability you've seen on a night out?
Besides me again. Lockyer's pretty good, right? Lockyer takes some handling. Aaron Pinches is a bit warm on a night out, in a tricky way. I'm not going to lie here. Kerry Sweeney, once it's hit about doing that, right? Then look out, guys. Anything can happen, boys. All right. Yeah, once old Noddy goes, anything can happen. So yeah, I'm going to go with Kerry Sweeney.
And who's the best changing room DJ you had?
So I'll say me, Paddy.
Not bad. Who's the changing room DJ?
There's been a few, but I'll go Sevens wise. I don't know if you've heard of Lloydie Liu, the rapper. But I was playing with him. He was in charge of music all the time. And to be fair to him, it wasn't just his rap music. It was all kinds of music. He used to facilitate all the boys. So, but he was definitely in charge while we were in the gym sessions with the Sevens boys.
And
if you were stuck on a desert island, who's the teammate you most want to be stuck with and the one you'd least want to be stuck with?
I think I'd probably go with Bleth Davis, because he's a lovely fella. He's a proper top man, but he's from the Rhondda. So, if you can survive the Rhondda, I'm pretty sure if there's any issues with the natives on this island, I'll just send Bleth in and say, just go sort them out for me. But the worst, Arto, my mate Arto, because he'd just eat any food. If you found some food, he'd eat it all because he's a pudding. Who else? Tom Ryan Thomas, because he's the tightest man in the world, and he'd just be moaning about how much he's getting paid to be on this desert island and where's his next contract coming from. I think, who else? It's a few blokes I'd hate to be stuck with mine, to be honest. I tell you what, Ty, our outside half, because we had a social last year, right? And he is obsessed with Jeremy Corbyn. So literally, we were sat there and he's giving British politics the good going over to the boys, talking about you've got to vote for manifestos. Half the boys don't even know what a manifesto is.